Somebody asked me yesterday if I've got any top tips for not smoking, and although it's only been sort of 24 hours since I stopped smoking, um, and I don't know if some of the stuff that I've been doing um, is working or not. I guess maybe it is. Um, so I thought I'd sort of share them really. You know, I did quite a lot of reading on the internet, sort of prior to quitting smoking and stuff like that. And um, a lot of folk were saying that it's best to set an actual no smoking date, and I think that pretty much works really, because you sort of set a date and um, you have something to build up to, if you get what I mean. Um, for example, when my wife quit a couple of years ago, she set a date, and sort of the day before she'd done a lot of washing and stuff like that, so she knew that maybe the jacket that she was wearing on her first day of not smoking wasn't a jacket that she'd worn the previous day that she'd been smoking, and the smell and stuff like that. That kind of thing doesn't really bother me, but certainly setting the date sort of helped. So I'd set my date as being the other day. um, Another thing that I sort of read about was um, sort of making note of your trigger points. Those times during the day that during your routine you would normally have a fag. When you get up, maybe after meals, sort of before last thing before you go to bed and stuff like that. And to think about maybe substituting those with something else other than smoking. Now, some people say that they eat instead of sort of smoke. They need to have something to do with the fingers. I find this sort of quite difficult, really, because let's take for example, I've just had my evening meal, and I'm absolutely stuffed, and I don't really want to eat anything else. And usually, after my evening meal, I'd go outside and have a fag, because smoking is sort of one thing that you can do as a sort of mini break without when you're absolutely punched, um, and I wouldn't really want to start sitting down on a chocolate bar after I've just had a meal. I wouldn't really want to go for a long walk just after a meal. You know so those ones are quite difficult. For me, what I've been doing sort of after meals and stuff like that is just sitting and chatting with my wife, and reading the paper, really, just something different. But I think the one thing that is helping me is when I've been on my PC for an hour, and I'd usually then sort of come off and go and have a fag. I don't just sort of sit there and carry on. I get up from my desk, and maybe go in the kitchen and have a quick drag on my fake fag. That little plastic thing. Just something that sort of gets me off my bum, really. For 5 minutes, and then fun enough, I'll go back to my PC and sort of feel pretty okay. I've not really got a huge amount of tips for anybody who's out there sort of who's trying to quit, but I think it does help. It's certainly helping me anyway. Having quit and failed a few times. That sounds a bit daft, but it sort of prepares you for. I think once you've smoked and you've tried to quit, and during those first few days, and it's absolutely terrible and stuff like that. I think it sort of helps you when you get to a point where you really want to quit, because you're sort of prepared, and you've got an idea of sort of what to expect. I don't know if that helps somewhat. I'm not entirely sure. But for example, I'm sort of expecting day 3 and 4 to be quite bad. Whether it is, I don't know. So yeah. So but if you are quitting, I wish you the best of luck. It's not easy, is it? But I'm sure after a couple of weeks you'll sort of look back and think, I want a cigarette, or you find that you've actually achieving something, and things are getting a little easier for you. So keep going, because I certainly will. I'll talk to you soon.